The space station Prometheus floated in the dark void like a metal flower. Its bright lights twinkled against the black sky, and inside its curved walls, hundreds of different alien beings worked together. The station was huge, with many levels, and rooms where scientists from across the galaxy studied the planet below. Nira sat alone in the observation deck, watching the stars through the giant window. Her silver-blue skin seemed to glow softly in the dim light, and her large violet eyes reflected the distant suns. She was beautiful in a strange way, but also very different from everyone else on the station. Her people, the Keth, had been gone. For 6 months now, she was the only one left. The other beings on the station walked past her every day, but they never stopped to talk. The tall green Valorians would hurry by with quick steps. The floating Zephyrite would drift past without looking at her. Even the crystal beings would change their path to avoid her. They were all afraid of what she could do with her mind. Nira could read thoughts and feelings from other people without trying. It just happened, like breathing. But when she did, the other aliens felt uncomfortable. They said it was like having someone look through their private things, so they stayed away from her, and she stayed away from them. Every day was the same. Nira would wake up in her small room, eat her meals alone, and sit in the observation deck watching the stars. Sometimes she would help the scientists by telling them what the planet's animals were thinking. But even then, they would ask their questions quickly and leave as soon as they could. The loneliness was like a heavy weight on her chest. She missed her family and her home world. She missed the feeling of other Keth minds around her, warm and welcoming. Now there was only cold emptiness where those connections used to be. On this day, something different happened. Nira was sitting in her usual spot when she heard footsteps coming down the hallway. She expected them to walk past like always, but they stopped. A human man walked into the observation deck carrying a small bag of tools. Nira had heard about humans. They were new to space, having only met other aliens 3 years ago. Most beings thought they were simple and not very smart, but they were good at fixing things and solving problems in strange ways. The human sat down on a bench near the window, not too close to Nira, but not far away either. He opened his bag and pulled out some kind of broken device. Then he started working on it with small tools, humming a soft tune. Nira tried to read his mind like she did with everyone else, but something was different. His thoughts felt cloudy and far away, like trying to see through thick fog. It did not hurt her head like it usually did when she could not connect properly. Instead, it felt quiet, peaceful. The human worked on his device for a long time, still humming. Sometimes he would stop and look out at the stars, then go back to his work. He did not seem to notice Nira at all, or if he did not care that she was there. After an hour, the human put his tools away. The device in his hands was now working, making small beeping sounds and flashing lights. He smiled at it like an old friend, then looked up at the stars again. "Beautiful view," he said quietly, not talking to anyone in particular. Nira was surprised. No one had spoken to her in weeks, not unless they needed something. She did not know what to say back. The human stood up and walked toward the door, but then he stopped and turned around. "I am Minho," he said, looking right at her. "I fix things around the station." "I am Nira," she replied, her voice soft from not using it much. Minho nodded. "Nice to meet you, Nira. I will probably be back here tomorrow. This is a good place to work." Then he left, walking away with calm steps. Nira sat there for a long time after he was gone, thinking about what had just happened. Minho had not been afraid of her. He had not hurried away or avoided looking at her. He had been normal. The next day, Nira went to the observation deck at the same time. She told herself she was just going to watch the stars like always, but part of her hoped Minho would come back. He did. At the same time as before, she heard his footsteps in the hallway. He walked in with his bag of tools and sat on the same bench. This time he was working on a different device, something with many wires and small parts. "Hello, Nira," he said. When he saw her, "Hello," she answered. They did not talk much after that, but it felt comfortable. Minho hummed while he worked, and sometimes he would make small sounds of success when he fixed something. Nira found herself relaxing in a way she had not felt since coming to the station. This went on for several days. Every afternoon, Minho would come to the observation deck to work on broken things. Sometimes he would say hello to Nira, and sometimes they would sit in quiet together. Slowly, Nira began to look forward to these times. One day, Minho was working on something that seemed very difficult. He kept trying different things, but nothing worked. Finally, he sat back and sighed. "Sometimes the old ways do not work," he said, talking to himself. "You have to try something new." Nira watched him think for a while. Then she said, "What are you trying to fix?" Minho looked at her with surprise, then smiled. "It is a communication device. It is supposed to help different species talk to each other, but the signals keep getting mixed up. Maybe the problem is not with the device," Nira said carefully. "Maybe the problem is that different minds work in different ways." Minho stopped working and looked at her with interest. "What do you mean?" Nira hesitated. She had never really talked to anyone about how her abilities worked. "When I try to read thoughts from different species, they all feel different, like they are speaking different languages in their minds. Maybe your device needs to learn those languages." Minho nodded slowly, his eyes bright with new ideas. "That makes sense. Instead of forcing everyone to use the same signal, the device should adapt to each species." They talked for the rest of the afternoon about how minds and communication worked. Nira found herself explaining things she had never put into words before, and Minho listened carefully to every word. He asked good questions and never made her feel strange for knowing these things. When it was time for Minho to leave, he packed up his tools but left the broken device on the bench. "Would you like to help me fix this tomorrow?" he asked. Nira felt something warm grow in her chest. It had been so long since someone had asked for her help in a kind way. "Yes," she said. "I would like that." As Minho walked away, Nira realized something had changed. For the first time in months, she was not completely alone. Someone had stepped into the light with her, and maybe, just maybe, things could get better. The next few weeks changed everything for Nira. Every day, she would meet Minho in the observation deck, and they would work together on different devices. Minho was patient and kind, never making her feel stupid when she did not understand something about technology. In return, Nira helped him understand how different alien minds worked. Minho was unlike anyone Nira had ever met. When other beings looked at her, she could feel their fear or curiosity, like sharp needles in her mind. But when Minho looked at her, there was only warmth and interest. He seemed to have walls in his mind that kept her abilities from hurting either of them, but they were soft walls, not the hard barriers that other species put up. "Why are you not afraid of me?" Nira asked one day while they worked on a translation device. Minho thought about this for a moment. "Should I be afraid of you?" "Everyone else is. They say my mind powers are dangerous." "Can you control them?" Minho asked, not looking up from the device. "Yes, mostly. But sometimes they just happen." "Then I am not afraid," Minho said simply. "You have not hurt me, and you try to control your abilities. That is enough for me." Nira felt tears in her eyes. It was such a simple answer, but it meant everything to her. As the days passed, other humans on the station began to notice what Minho was doing. Hayuna, the chief medical officer, was the first to approach them. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gentle hands that had healed many beings. "Minho told me about you," Huna said to Nira one day. I hope you do not mind, but I have been watching how you interact with others on the station. Nira felt nervous. Am I doing something wrong? No, not at all, Hyuna said quickly. But I am worried about you. Can I ask you some questions about how you feel? Nira agreed, and Hyuna began asking about her health, her sleep, and her daily life. As they talked, Nira found herself telling Hyuna things she had never told anyone. How her head hurt sometimes when too many minds were around her. How she felt empty and cold inside, like something important was missing. How sometimes she was so tired that she could barely get out of bed. Hyuna listened to everything with a serious expression. When Nira finished talking, the doctor was quiet for a long time. I think I know what is wrong, Hyuna said finally. But I need to do some research first. Can you be patient with me? Nira nodded, though she felt scared about what Hyuna might find. A few days later, Hyuna came back with news that made Nira's heart sink. They met in Hyuna's medical office, with Minho there for support. Your people, the Keth, were telepathic beings who lived in mental groups, Hyuna explained. You were meant to be connected to other Keth minds all the time. Without those connections, your brain is slowly breaking down. What does that mean? Nira asked, though she was afraid to know. It means you are dying, Hyuna said gently. Your mind is like a plant that needs sunlight, but you have been kept in darkness for too long. Minho's face went white. There has to be something we can do. Maybe, Hyuna said. But it would require creating artificial connections to replace the ones you lost. And I do not know if that is even possible. Nira felt the world spinning around her. She had always known something was wrong, but hearing it said out loud made it real. She was the last of her kind, and soon she would be gone completely. I want to help, Minho said firmly. What do you need? Hyuna looked between them. I would need to study how Keth minds work, and then figure out how to create a device that could give Nira the connections she needs. But the station commanders would never approve such a project. They see Nira as a research subject, not a person who needs help. Then we do not tell them, Minho said. Minho, that could get you in serious trouble, Hyuna warned. I do not care, Minho replied. Nira is my friend. I will not let her die because some commanders think paperwork is more important than a life. Nira felt that warm feeling in her chest again, but stronger this time. No one had ever called her a friend before. No one had ever been willing to risk anything for her. I will help too, said a new voice from the doorway. Jiwon, the communications specialist, stepped into the room. I heard what you were talking about. If you are going to build a device to help Nira, you will need someone who understands how different species communicate. This is not your problem, Jiwon, Minho said. Yes, it is, Jiwon replied. We are humans. We do not abandon people who need help, even if they are different from us. A few days later, Tae-hyun, the cultural attaché, also joined their group. He had been studying how different species interacted, and he thought their project could help, more than just Nira. If we can create a device that lets Nira connect safely with other minds, we could use it to help other species understand each other better, Tae-hyun explained. Think about how many problems in the galaxy come from species not understanding each other. The group began meeting in secret, usually in empty storage rooms or during night shifts when most of the station was sleeping. Minho worked on the technology while Hyuna studied Nira's brain patterns. Jiwon helped with communication protocols, and Tae-hyun researched how the device might affect different species. Nira helped by explaining how her abilities worked and letting them run tests on her mind. It was scary sometimes having so many people studying her thoughts, but she trusted them. They were not trying to use her or control her. They just wanted to help. The work was slow and difficult. They had to be careful not to let the station. Commanders know what they were doing, which meant they could only work for short periods and had to hide their research. Several times they almost got caught by security patrols. But slowly, the device began to take shape. Minho called it a harmony bridge because it was meant to create harmony between different minds. It looked like a simple headband with small lights and wires, but the technology inside was very complex. The idea is that it will translate your telepathic signals so other species can understand them without getting hurt, Minho explained to Nira. Instead of forcing your way into their minds, it will create a safe space where you can meet halfway. Will it work? Nira asked. I think so, Minho said. But we will need to test it. And that means someone will have to be willing to connect with you through the device. Nira felt scared. What if the device hurt someone? What if it did not work and she accidentally damaged their mind? She had been so careful to keep her abilities under control, and now they were asking her to use them on purpose. I will test. It, Minho said without hesitation. Minho, no, Hyuna said quickly. We do not know if it is safe yet. Someone has to try it, Minho replied, and I trust Nira. She will not hurt me. Nira looked at Minho with amazement. Even now, when there was real danger, he was still not afraid of her. He believed in her more than she believed in herself. As they prepared for the first test of the Harmony Bridge, Nira realized that everything had changed. She was no longer completely alone. She had friends who cared about her and were willing to risk everything to help her live. For the first time since her world had died, she had hope. The night they tested the Harmony Bridge was the most frightening and wonderful night of Nira's life. They met in a small storage room deep in the station, far from where anyone might find them. Minho had brought the device, which looked fragile and delicate in his hands. Are you sure about this? Hyuna asked Minho for the 10th time. We still do not know what might happen. I am sure, Minho said calmly. He looked at Nira. Are you ready? Nira's hands were shaking. She had not deliberately connected with another mind since the last time she spoke with her family. The thought of doing it again, even with the device to help, made her feel sick with worry. What if I hurt you? She whispered. You will not, Minho said with complete confidence. You are the kindest person I know. Trust yourself. Minho put the Harmony Bridge on his head like a crown. The small lights began to glow softly, and Nira could hear a quiet humming sound. She put on her own device and immediately felt something change in her mind. It was like having a gentle hand guide her thoughts. Now, Minho said softly. Nira closed her eyes and carefully reached out with her mind toward Minho. Instead of the usual sharp contact that made other beings uncomfortable, she felt the device create a soft bridge between them. Slowly, gently, their thoughts began to touch. The first thing Nira felt was Minho's calmness. Even though this was dangerous and new, he was not afraid. His mind felt warm and steady, like sitting by a fire on a cold day. Then she began to see his memories. She saw Minho as a child on Earth, taking apart old machines to see how they worked. She felt his excitement when humans first met aliens and learned they were not alone in the universe. She experienced his wonder at seeing the stars from space for the first time. But most amazingly, she felt how Minho saw her. In his mind, she was not a dangerous alien or a strange creature to be feared. She was simply Nira, his friend who was smart and kind and needed help. The love and respect he felt for her was so strong, it brought tears to her eyes. Minho was experiencing her memories too. She felt his surprise as he saw her home world through her eyes, beautiful and peaceful with silver cities and crystal lakes. He felt her pain when the star began to die and her world was destroyed. He experienced the terrible loneliness of being the only one left of her kind. For a few perfect moments, they were not human and alien. They were just two minds sharing thoughts and feelings in complete understanding. Nira felt the empty space in her heart filling up with warmth and connection. Then the device began to beep, and they slowly pulled their minds apart. When Nira opened her eyes, she saw Minho looking at her with tears on his face. "It worked," he said quietly. "It really worked." Hyuna and the others rushed forward to check on them. "How do you feel?" Hyuna asked, scanning them with her medical devices. "Amazing," Nira said, and meant it. For the first time in months, her head did not hurt. The constant ache in her chest was gone. She felt alive again. "We need to tell Commander Veltar about this," Taehyun said excitedly. "This could change everything about how species communicate with each other." But Jiwon looked worried. "I do not think that is a good idea. The commander has been asking questions about our work schedules. I think he knows we are working on something." They decided to wait and do more tests before telling anyone. Over the next few days, Nira used the Harmony Bridge to connect with each of her human friends. Every connection was different and wonderful. Hyuna's mind was full of compassion and healing thoughts. Jiwon's was organized and precise, like a well-built machine. Taehyun's was curious and full of questions about everything. Each time Nira used the device, she felt stronger and healthier. The device was not just letting her communicate with others. It was giving her the mental connections she needed to survive. But their secret could not last forever. One morning, Nira was called to Commander Veltar's office. The Valorian commander was tall and green with sharp features and cold eyes. He had never liked having Nira on the station, but had been ordered to keep her there for research purposes. "I have been hearing interesting reports about you, Nira," Veltar said in his deep voice. "Some of my staff say you seem much healthier lately. They also say you have been spending time with the human crew members." "Yes, sir," Nira said carefully. "They have been kind to me." "Kind?" Veltar's eyes narrowed. "What exactly have they been doing?" Nira did not want to lie, but she also did not want to get her friends in trouble. "They talk to me sometimes. They are not afraid of my abilities like others are." Veltar stood up and walked around his desk. "You know, Nira, your abilities could be very useful to the right people. Reading minds, knowing what others are thinking. There are many ways such powers could be used." Something cold crawled down Nira's spine. The way Veltar was looking at her made her feel like prey being watched by a hunter. "I only use my abilities to help with research," Nira said. "Of course," Veltar smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "But perhaps it is time we explored other applications. I want you to report to the security department tomorrow. There are some suspects we would like you to question." Nira left the commander's office feeling sick. She had heard rumors about how some species use telepaths as living lie detectors, forcing them to dig through people's minds against their will. Was that what Veltar wanted her to do? She found Minho in the observation deck working on a new device. When she told him what had happened, his face went dark with anger. "He wants to use you as a weapon," Minho said. "We cannot let that happen." "But what can we do?" Nira asked. "He is the commander. I have to obey his orders." "No, you do not," Minho said firmly. "You are not a tool to be used. You are a person with rights." That evening, their group met in secret again. Everyone was upset about what Commander Veltar wanted to do to Nira. "We need to contact the Galactic Council," Taehyun said. "They would not approve of using Nira this way." "That could take weeks," Jiwon pointed out. "And Veltar wants her to start tomorrow." "Then we refuse," Minho said. "All of us. We protect Nira no matter what." Hyuna looked worried. "Minho, if we openly disobey the commander, we could all be arrested. Or worse, they could send us back to Earth and do whatever they want with Nira." As they talked, Nira had an idea. It was dangerous, but it might be their only chance. "What if we use the Harmony Bridge to find out what Veltar is really planning?" she suggested. "If I could read his mind, we would know what he intends to do." "Absolutely not," Minho said quickly. "That is too dangerous. If he caught you, there is no telling what he would do." "But if we do not do something, he will use me to hurt innocent people," Nira said. At least this way, we would know what we are fighting against. They talked late into the night, trying to find another solution. But in the end, they all knew Nira was right. They needed to know what Commander Veltar was really planning. The next day, Nira went to the security department as ordered. But she was wearing a hidden Harmony Bridge device that Minho had made smaller and harder to see. As she sat across from Commander Veltar, she carefully reached out with her mind. What she found there made her blood turn cold. Veltar was not just planning to use her as a lie detector. He was part of something much bigger and more dangerous. And if she did not stop him, many innocent people were going to die. What Nira found in Commander Veltar's mind was worse than anything she could have imagined. As she sat in the security office, pretending to listen to his instructions while secretly reading his thoughts, the horrible truth became clear. Veltar and several other high-ranking officials had been stealing supplies meant for new colony worlds. They had been taking food, medicine, and equipment that was supposed to help poor planets and selling it for profit. Billions of beings across the galaxy were suffering because of their greed. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was why her people, the Keth, had been killed. The Keth had natural lie-detecting abilities. They could read minds and know when someone was not telling the truth. A few Keth telepaths had been hired by the Galactic Council to check on colony supply shipments. They had discovered Veltar's theft and were about to report it. So Veltar and his partners had arranged for the Keth homeworld star to be destabilized. They had made it look like a natural disaster, but it was murder. They had killed billions of innocent people just to hide their crimes. Nira was only alive because she had been away from home, visiting another world when the star died. But Veltar knew she existed, and he had arranged for her to be brought to this remote station where he could watch her. He had been planning to eventually kill her too, but then he realized she could be useful. Now he wanted to use her telepathic abilities to find out which other beings suspected his crimes. He would make her read their minds, and then he would have them killed too. Nira sat frozen with horror as these thoughts flowed from Veltar's mind into hers. Her entire species had been murdered because of this being's greed. Her family, her friends, everyone she had ever loved was dead because Veltar wanted money. "Are you listening to me?" Veltar's voice cut through her shock. "Yes, sir," Nira managed to say, though her voice sounded strange even to her. "Good. Your first assignment will be to read the minds of 3 beings who have been asking too many questions about colony supply shipments. I want to know exactly what they suspect and who they have talked to." Nira nodded, not trusting herself to speak. If she said what she was really thinking, Veltar would know something was wrong. "You will report back to me tonight with what you find," Veltar continued. "And Nira, if you try to warn any of these beings or refuse to do as I order, I will. Have your human friends arrested for stealing station equipment? I know all about their little device-making project." Nira's heart stopped. Veltar knew about the Harmony Bridge. He knew about Minho and the others helping her. If she did not do what he wanted, her friends would be punished. "I understand," she whispered. Veltar smiled his cold smile. "I thought you might. You may go now." Nira left the security office feeling like she was going to be sick. She wandered through the station corridors, her mind spinning with everything she had learned. What could she do? If she obeyed Veltar, innocent beings would die. But if she refused, her friends would be arrested, and she would probably be killed. She found herself in the observation deck, staring out at the stars without really seeing them. This was where she had first met Minho, where everything had started to change for the better. Now it might all be ending. "Nira?" Minho's voice came from behind her. "How did it go with the commander?" Nira turned around and saw all her friends. There, Minho, Hyuna, Jiwon, and Taehyun. They had worried faces and were clearly waiting to hear what had happened. "It was bad," Nira said quietly. Then she told them everything she had learned from Veltar's mind, about the theft, about the murder of her people, about what Veltar wanted her to do now. When she finished, there was a long silence. Minho's face was white with anger and his hands were clenched into fists. "That monster," he said through gritted teeth. "He killed your entire species for money." "We have to report this to the Galactic Council," Taehyun said. "This is genocide. They will arrest him immediately." "With what proof?" Jiwon asked. Nira read his mind illegally. "The Council will not accept telepathic evidence obtained without permission. And even if they did believe us, it would take time for them to act," Hyuna added. "Veltar knows we are onto him now. He will not wait around to be arrested." Nira felt tears streaming down her face. "It is hopeless. He has already won. My people are dead, and now more innocents will die because of me." "No," Minho said firmly. He knelt down in front of Nira and took her hands. "Your people did not die because of you. They died because of Veltar's evil, and we are not going to let him win." "But what can we do?" Nira asked. "He knows about the Harmony Bridge. He knows we have been working together. If we try to fight him, he will destroy us all." Minho was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then his eyes lit up with an idea that was either brilliant or completely crazy. "What if we use the Harmony Bridge to tell everyone on the station what Veltar has done?" he said. "Not just the Council, but every being on this station. If you could connect with multiple minds at once and show them the truth directly from Veltar's memories, they would have to believe it." "That is impossible," Hyuna said. "The Harmony Bridge is designed for one-to-one connections. Using it on multiple beings at once could kill Nira." "Not if we modify it," Jiwon said, catching on to Minho's idea. "We could create a network like a mental broadcasting system. Instead of Nira connecting directly with everyone, she could send the signal through the station's communication array. That would require multiple Harmony Bridge devices," Taehyun pointed out, "and we would need beings willing to wear them and receive the signal." Some of the younger crew members have been asking questions about the supply shipments, Jiwon said. "I think they suspect something is wrong. They might be willing to help if they knew the truth." They spent the next several hours planning. It was dangerous and complicated, but it was their only chance. They would need to build several more Harmony Bridge devices, convince other crew members to help them, and somehow get Veltar to reveal his crimes again while Nira was connected to the network. "There is one big problem," Nira said as they worked out the details. "Veltar has given me until tonight to report back to him. If I do not do what he wants, he will arrest all of you." "Then we make our move before tonight," Minho said. "We work fast and we work together, just like humans always do when things look impossible." As they prepared for what might be their last chance to expose the truth, Nira felt something she had not felt since her world died. She felt hope, not just for herself, but for all the innocent beings who were suffering because of Veltar's greed. Her friends were willing to risk everything to help her and to stop a great evil. They were not doing it because they had to, but because it was the right thing to do. This was what made humans special, Nira realized. They did not abandon people in need, even when helping them was dangerous. The wild alien girl who had once stood isolated was no longer alone, and together they were going, to make sure that the truth came to light. The next few hours were the most intense of Nira's life. While Minho and Jiwon worked frantically to build more Harmony Bridge devices, Hyuna and Taehyun went to quietly contact other crew members who might help them. They started with the younger, beings who had been asking questions about the missing supplies. A Zephyrite engineer named Kalo, who had noticed that medicine shipments were smaller than they should be. A crystalline researcher named Tess, who had wondered why some colony worlds were not getting the food they needed. At first, these beings were suspicious. Why should they trust a group of humans and the strange telepathic alien that everyone avoided? But when Taehyun carefully explained what they had discovered, and when Hyuna showed them the medical evidence of what was happening to suffering colonists, they began to listen. "You are saying Commander Veltar murdered an entire species to hide theft?" Kalo asked in disbelief. "That is exactly what we are saying," Taehyun replied, "and Nira can prove it by sharing what she read in his mind." "Telepathic evidence is not accepted by most courts," Tess pointed out. "This would not be evidence for a court," Minho explained as he joined them with the new devices. "This would be direct truth-sharing. Every being on this station would experience Veltar's memories as if they were their own. They would know beyond any doubt what he has done." Slowly, more crew members joined them. A young Valorian who was disgusted by what her own species' commander had done. Several humans from other departments who trusted Minho and his team. Even a few older beings who had been suspicious of the supply problems for months. By late afternoon, they had 23 volunteers wearing Harmony Bridge devices, all connected to a network that Ji-won had created using the station's communication systems. Nira sat at the center of it all, feeling the gentle presence of all these different minds waiting to receive her signal. "Remember," Minho said to her softly, "you do not have to carry this burden alone anymore. We are all here with you." Nira nodded and closed her eyes. Carefully, she reached out with her telepathic abilities and connected to the network. Immediately, she felt the presence of all the volunteers. Their minds were different, some bright and quick, others deep and thoughtful. But they were all united in wanting to know the truth. Now came the hardest part. Nira had to approach Commander Veltar and get him to think about his crimes again while she was connected to the network. If he realized what she was doing, he would stop the transmission and probably kill her. Nira went to Veltar's office and knocked on the door. "Come in," his voice called. She entered and sat down across from his desk, just as she had that morning. But this time, instead of being alone and frightened, she carried the support of 24 friends with her. "Well?" Veltar said impatiently. "What did you learn from the suspects?" "I read their minds as you ordered," Nira lied. "But before I tell you what I found, I need to understand something. Why do you want to know what they suspect?" Veltar's eyes narrowed. "That is not your concern. Just report what you discovered." "But it is my concern," Nira pressed, trying to make him think about his plans. "You are asking me to spy on innocent beings. I have a right to know why." "You have no rights," Veltar snapped, his anger making him careless. "You are here because I allow it. Your pathetic species is dead because they got in the way of important work. The colonies are weak and useless. If we had not taken those supplies, they would have just wasted them anyway." Perfect. Through the network, every volunteer was now experiencing Veltar's thoughts as he remembered his crimes. They felt his satisfaction at destroying the Keith homeworld. They experienced his greed as he planned to steal more supplies. They shared his cold calculation as he decided which beings to kill next. "The Galactic Council thinks they are so wise," Veltar continued, his thoughts flowing freely now. "They have no idea how easy it has been to fool them. A few false reports, some manufactured accidents, and billions of beings suffer while we profit. And the best part is, they thank us for our service." The volunteers in the network were experiencing not just Veltar's words, but his memories. They saw the stolen supply ships. They felt his amusement as he watched colony worlds struggle with hunger and disease. They experienced his pleasure at watching the Keth homeworld die, but they also felt something else. They felt Nira's pain and loss, her months of loneliness and fear. They understood what it meant to be the last of her kind, carrying the weight of an entire dead civilization. "That is enough," Veltar said suddenly, his mood changing. "You are asking too many questions. Tell me what the suspects know now." "They know nothing," Nira said quietly. "Because I did not read their minds. Instead, I read yours." Veltar went very still. "What did you say?" "I know what you did to my people. I know about the stolen supplies. And now, so does everyone else on this station." Veltar lunged across his desk toward Nira, but he was too late. The damage was already done. Through the Harmony Bridge network, 23 beings had experienced the complete truth of his crimes. They had felt his guilt, his greed, and his evil with their own minds. And they were not keeping quiet about it. All across the station, alarms began to ring as the volunteers shared what they had learned with others. Security officers who were not part of Veltar's conspiracy arrested his associates. The crystalline beings, who could not lie even if they wanted to, began broadcasting the truth to other stations. The Zephyrite, with their perfect memories, recorded every detail of what they had experienced. Within hours, Galactic Council ships arrived at the station. They arrested Veltar and his remaining supporters and began the process of returning the stolen supplies to the colony worlds that needed them. But for Nira, the most important moment came when the crisis was over. She sat in the observation deck with her human friends, watching the council ships through the window. "What will happen to you now?" Huna asked gently. "The council wants me to help them find other telepaths who might have been used like I was," Nira said. "And Minho has an idea for something called an Interspecies Communication Research Division. It would study how different species can understand each other better," Minho explained. "Using Harmony Bridge technology to break down the barriers that let criminals like Veltar operate in secret." "And you would lead it?" Taehyun asked. "We would lead it," Minho corrected. "Nira and I together, along with anyone else who wants to help make sure that beings never have to face the universe alone." Nira looked around at her friends, these humans who had saved her life and helped her save others. A few months ago, she had been completely alone, the last of her kind with no hope for the future. Now she was surrounded by beings who cared about her and were committed to making the galaxy a better place. She was still the last Keth in the universe. That would never change. But she was no longer isolated. Through the Harmony Bridge network, she had connected with dozens of different minds from many species. She had found a new kind of family, one chosen rather than born. "There is something I want to show you," Nira said to her friends. She activated a small Harmony Bridge device that Minho had made for her. "I want to share with you what my people used to call the Song of Connection." One by one, her friends put on their own devices and joined the mental network. When they were all connected, Nira shared with them an ancient Keth tradition, a wordless song of joy and unity that her people had sung with their minds when they were happy. As the song flowed through the network, Nira felt something beautiful happen. Each species added their own harmony to the song. The humans brought warmth and determination. The Zephyrite added flowing grace. The crystalline being contributed clear, pure notes. The young Valorian brought strength and courage. Together, they created something new. Not a Keth song, but a song of all species united in friendship and understanding. It was a song that honored the past while building hope for the future. When the song ended and they disconnected from the network, there were tears in many eyes. "This is what we are working toward," Nira said softly. "A galaxy where every being can connect with others, where no one has to stand alone, and where differences are celebrated instead of feared." 6 months later, the Interspecies Communication Research Division had prevented 2 wars and exposed corruption in 17 different systems. The Harmony Bridge technology was being used to help traumatized refugees, to negotiate peace between conflicting species, and to create understanding between beings who had never been able to communicate before. Nira was no longer the wild alien girl who stood isolated. She was a bridge herself now, connecting minds and hearts across the galaxy. And though she would always miss her lost people, she had found something precious, a chosen family of friends who would never abandon her, and a purpose that honored both her past and her future. The universe was vast and often lonely, but it was also full of beings who cared about each other, and that, Neera had learned, made all the difference.